For more than 2 years, Michael Shaver's friends and family kept hearing from him. A text here, a Facebook message there, small, ordinary updates from a man who seemed to have slowly pulled away from the people who knew him. There was only one problem with those messages. Every single one of them was a lie. Michael Shaver had not drifted out of anyone's life. He was dead. He had been shot once in the back of the head and buried 3 feet down in his own backyard, beneath a fire pit and a slab of fresh concrete. And the person tapping out those friendly little updates in his name, month after month, keeping the ghost of him alive online, was the very person who had put him in the ground. His wife. Her name was Lori Shaver. And for 2 years, she almost made a dead man disappear in plain sight. This is how it finally came apart. Michael Shaver was 36 years old. He lived in Claremont in Lake County, Florida, with his wife Lori and their children. On the surface, it was an ordinary suburban family in an ordinary house on an ordinary street. Behind the front door, it was something else. The Shaver household, by the account that would later come out in a courtroom, was a violent one. And in November of 2015, that violence reached its endpoint. Michael Shaver was shot, and he did not survive. Exactly how it happened and whose hand was on the gun in that final moment would become the tangled, disturbing heart of this case years later. But one fact was never in doubt. After Michael died, someone made a series of very deliberate choices about what to do next, and not one of those choices was to call for help. Instead, Michael's body was hidden, and it was not hidden hastily in a panic. In the backyard of the family home, a grave was dug, about 3 feet deep. Michael was placed into it, and then, over that spot, a fire pit and a concrete slab were installed, sealing him beneath a feature that looked, to any visitor, like nothing more than a nice place to sit on a summer evening. Prosecutors would point out that Lori had that concrete work done in the yard right around the time Michael vanished from the world. A permanent lid poured over a secret. Think about the calm that requires, to take a life or to stand in the aftermath of one, and then to plan and build a patio over the body, and to host and to live and to raise children a few steps away from it. This was not the frantic covering of tracks. It was a construction project. But hiding the body was only half the problem. A man does not simply stop existing without people noticing. Friends call, family visits, a boss expects him at work. To make Michael truly disappear, Lori needed to do something far stranger and far colder. She needed to become him. For the next 2 years, Lori Shaver kept her dead husband alive on the internet. She sent text messages as Michael. She posted and messaged from his Facebook account as Michael. To his friends, to his family, to the people at his job, the story was consistent. Michael was around. Michael was fine. Michael just was not up for seeing anyone right now. Every reply she typed was another brick in the wall, another reason for the people who loved him not to worry, not to dig, not to ask the one question that would unravel everything. Picture it from the other side. Imagine messaging a friend you have known for years, getting a reply that sounds just like him, going about your life reassured and never once suspecting that the person on the other end is his wife, typing from a home with his body buried in the yard. That is what Lori Shaver pulled off for more than 2 years on the people closest to Michael. Sustaining a lie like that is not a single act. It is a job done every day. Every message had to sound like him. Every excuse for why he could not meet up or call or show his face had to be fresh enough to be believed and vague enough that no one would ever check it. Holidays came and went, and Michael sent his greetings. Questions were asked, and the woman typing as Michael always had an answer ready. For more than 700 days, Lori Shaver logged in and quietly resurrected her husband, again and again, just long enough to keep the world from ever looking for his body. It was an almost perfect erasure of a human being. Almost. Because there was one man it did not fool. His name was Scott Amatuccio, a longtime friend of Michael's. And somewhere in that steady stream of secondhand reassurances, something started to nag at him. He realized that, for all the texts and messages, he could not actually remember the last time he had physically seen or spoken to Michael. Not a message that claimed to be Michael himself. When he counted it up, it had been more than 2 years. 2 years of a friend who was always fine and never available. In February of 2018, Scott Amatuccio stopped accepting the story and did the simple, decent thing that would break the case open. He asked the police to go and check on Michael, a welfare check. That request is the hinge this entire case turns on. Without one friend refusing to be reassured any longer, Michael Shaver might have stayed under that fire pit indefinitely, quietly typed back to life whenever anyone asked. When investigators started looking, the story fell apart quickly. Lori was evasive about where her husband actually was, and out in the backyard, officers noticed something that did not fit an ordinary family home. A concrete slab and fire pit that had been added to the property, poured at some point in the not-too-distant past. To a suspicious eye, freshly laid concrete in the yard of a man no one had seen in 2 years is not landscaping. It is a question that demands an answer. They dug, and in March of 2018, about 3 feet beneath that fire pit, they found the remains of Michael Shaver. He had been there the whole time, under the patio, while his own killer messaged the world in his voice. He had a single gunshot wound to the back of the head. The illusion was over, but the fight over what it all meant was only beginning. Consider what that discovery meant in a single instant. For more than 2 years, dozens of people had believed Michael was alive because a screen told them so. And then, in one afternoon, a shovel turned that story to dust. The man who had been sending cheerful little updates was a skeleton under a fire pit in his own backyard. And every message anyone had received from him since November of 2015 had been typed by the person standing a few feet away, watching the police dig. Lori Shaver was arrested in 2020, and her trial did not reach a courtroom until 2024. When it did, the defense did not argue that Michael had died of natural causes or that no crime had occurred. The body under the concrete made that impossible. Instead, the strategy was to point the blame somewhere, anywhere, other than at Lori herself. And this is where the case turns genuinely dark, because the person the defense reached for was a child. The Shaver's daughter, Isabel, took the stand as a teenager and testified about that violent household. She described a confrontation between her parents when she was just 7 years old. She said she heard her mother screaming for help, that she went and took her mother's gun from a nightstand, and that she was the one who fired the shot that killed her father. The defense also floated another version, suggesting that Lori's lover had taken the gun and shot Michael during the argument. It is a genuinely painful set of claims to sit with. A home so violent that a small child would later describe grabbing a gun in the middle of it, and carry that memory into her teenage years and onto a witness stand. Whatever the exact truth of that one terrible moment in 2015, the jury was asked to decide something broader. Not only whose finger was on the trigger, but who was responsible for the death of Michael Shaver and for everything that was so carefully, coldly done in the years afterward. Because that is where the ambiguity of a single violent instant runs out. There is nothing ambiguous about pouring concrete over a grave. There is nothing accidental about spending 700 days impersonating the dead man to keep his death a secret. Those were not the reflexes of a frightened child. They were the calculated acts of an adult who had decided that Michael Shaver was better off erased than mourned. After a tense trial, on the 13th of September 2024, the jury gave its answer. They deliberated for only about 4 hours before finding Lori Shaver guilty of second-degree murder in the death of her husband. She was sentenced to life in prison. Whatever happened in the instant the trigger was pulled, the jury looked at the whole of it. The body sealed under a homemade patio, the concrete poured to hide it, and the 2 long years Lori spent breathing false life into a dead man, typing as Michael, reassuring his friends, burying not just his body, but the very fact of his death. That is not the behavior of an innocent bystander to a tragedy. It is the behavior of the person at the center of it. There is a specific horror in this case that sets it apart, and it is not the grave in the backyard, as grim as that is. It is the impersonation. Most people who hide a body are trying to buy silence, to make a person quietly cease to be. Lori Shaver did the opposite. She kept Michael talking. For 2 years, she sat down, again and again, and wore her dead husband like a mask, using his own words and his own accounts to look his grieving people in the eye, digitally, and tell them he was fine. She turned the people who loved him most into an unwitting audience for a performance about a man she had helped put in the ground. And it very nearly worked. That is the part that should unsettle anyone. If Scott Amatuccio had accepted one more message, if he had told himself that his friend was just busy, Michael Shaver might still be under that concrete, and Lori might still be typing. It took a single person who loved Michael enough to notice the shape of his absence and to refuse to look away from it. Michael Shaver was 36 years old. He was a father. He spent the last of his time in a home that his own daughter would describe as violent, and when it killed him, he was denied even the basic dignity of being reported dead. For more than 2 years, he was a lie told in his own name. But a friend counted the silence. A patch of concrete gave up its secret, and in the end, Michael was pulled out of the ground, his death finally acknowledged, and the woman who had spent 2 years pretending he was alive was made to answer for the day she made sure he never would be again.